Hey guys, welcome back to this week's vlog. This is going to be a little bit different because I am talking to Ben Lawrence, who is a director of music videos. It's awesome to have you here, Ben. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, good to be with you, Pete.
We've worked together on a couple of videos now and we will talk about that a little while later. It's one of those things that I'm amazed at how when you work with someone the first time it's great, and then the second time it's even better because you really start to know how each other work, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But I felt that this interview would be really interesting, particularly because we've just released the music video Run, the Pyramid Park music video Run, and I'm really pleased with the way it's come out. We've had a lot of positive comments from people already from it. And the video that I released from my previous project, Bright Heart, which was also with Ben, probably was the video I had the most response from people saying, I just love the story behind this video. It's really cool the direction you've taken it in, and I'm really intrigued if you're going to work with these guys again. And so of course it was a no-brainer for me to work with Ben and Sarah and the crew. But I wanted Ben to hop on here as well and talk about some of the process of what it's like being a director working with artists. I know, Ben, you work with a lot of different people, not just artists. And so if you're all right with this, my friends watching here right now, join us for this amazing little conversation with Ben Lawrence. Here we go. Before I get into the interview, don't forget, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel. It does make a massive difference for me as an indie artist, and I hope it notifies you of all the content that's coming up as well, and you're going to enjoy some of the stuff that's going to be coming out in the next few weeks. Plus, you may want to consider joining the membership program as well. There's going to be more about that at the end of this video. So Ben, welcome.
Hey.
My first question to you, I'm going to double check my phone to make sure I'm asking the right question, is you formed a filmmaking creative agency, I'm calling it that, but you may correct me on that, called The Family Table a little while ago. Can you tell us about what you do with The Family Table?
Yeah, so I guess it's probably like 2 or 3 years ago, me and Sarah, we both worked for a charity called Norwich Youth for Christ. And we both worked on creative projects together, making films and music together, and we were just kind of like interested in seeing where we might take that further in a sort of a freelance capacity, sort of out there in the sort of the outside world, working with different people and trying new things. And so we just kind of dreamt for a little while about what it might look like, what we could do with it. And that's really where the name The Family Table came from, is because we spent so much time kind of around Sarah's family table in her dining room and just chatting about, like, you know, what creative projects we wanted to sort of be involved in and who we wanted to work with and all the kind of cool stuff like that. And it kind of birthed out of that, really. Two people with two different skill sets. Sarah's an amazing musician. Very talented, great arranger of strings and piano pieces, and she writes a lot of the soundtracks that we use for different films that we make in brand filming and things like that. And then I'm a filmmaker, and so together we kind of work on projects, get these kind of crazy ideas together, come up with stories. It's a lot of fun, and yeah, it's just kind of something that we've always wanted to do, and growing it really is kind of what we're about now.
I love the kind of feel of The Family Table. I feel it's very, this word's overused, but organic, and it feels like it's something that you guys hold quite lightly, and yet you're really super passionate about it. That's quite intriguing for me because I can be quite intense, and I don't always hold things that lightly. How do you balance that?
Yeah, it's a really good question, actually. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm probably quite like you, Pete. Like, I'm quite a kind of, you know, like, if I've got an idea, I want to get it done, I want to go and shoot it, I want to do it now kind of thing. And Sarah's actually a really kind of the opposite. She's like massively strategic. She's really smart on like administration and kind of organizational skills, and all of the things that kind of balance out the kind of the crazy in me that just wants to go and like make something a bit mental. And I think that's just part of what I've learned as a creative, especially in this kind of line of work where, yeah, okay, content's king nowadays, and you've got to kind of, you know, have content every day or like every week or something like that. And so ideas do have to kind of come quite quickly nowadays. It's not like, you know, even 10 years ago where you had a lot longer to think about something before you needed to be posting it. But there still needs to be a balance of like, you know, really sort of absorbing a story and taking it to like the nth degree of like, how do we want this to play out, and, you know, what's the real kind of message of what we're trying to say through the story, or, you know, all of those questions that actually, without a good amount of time spent on the project, you can't develop an idea fully. And I think that's something that, like, because the family table for us is kind of in our spare time, we're both full-time kind of elsewhere as well. It means that when we do sit down with a project, it's usually one big project that we've got on, you know, every other month or so, or a couple of months, and it means that we can really just invest tons of time into it and really think through it. I can go away and kind of think about it for a couple of weeks and come back with some really serious ideas, and we can play around with it. And I think that kind of feels organic to me, because it's not a rush. It's not like we're a big, you know, corporation of like people who are being paid lots of money to get like, you know, ideas out of the door today kind of thing. And so in some ways it means that we can kind of just sort of sit in an idea for a little while and wait for it to kind of grow itself. And that to me is one of the best ways to kind of write organic stories, especially when it's for a music video like yours, Pete, where we've got the song, we've got the kind of the feel of what you're trying to say through the music, and we're just trying to kind of explore that further. And you don't want to just push an idea out and you know, get something done. You want to like actually kind of really understand what the story is and the purpose of it is. And so yeah, I think for me that kind of means that we're working, you know, in the best way possible for you as an artist, and hopefully for other people as well.
That's so good. And you kind of answered my second question, which was about attention grabbing, which is like the era that we're living in. If you can't grab someone's attention in 3 seconds, you've pretty much lost it.
Yeah.
Versus the art of telling a story. And I've kind of really enjoyed your approach where, you know, I can actually use clips from a video that I can edit up, and you find the attention grabbing bits to promote the video on something like Insta or whatever. But the real art is over on my other channel, YouTube or whatever, and that's like where you can, if you're invested in what I am as an artist, and you guys, if people follow you, that's where they'll get the real meat of the process, I guess. So that's how I see it anyway. I don't know whether that resonates with you at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you know, there's a space for quick content nowadays, and we've all got quite good at it, especially over the lockdown, of like, how do I do this, like basically where we are today in our home studios, like how do I just quickly knock out some content or come up with an idea that will keep people interested. And there's a place for it, like, you know, there's nothing wrong with content like being a thing and connecting with people via almost any means, especially if you've got a story to tell or a message to bring or whatever, then get it out there, say it, you know, connect with people. But also I think there's definitely a place for like music and film and art and all those types of creative mediums to be places where we've really invested in like one really great idea and gone like, this is the one, that's the one, and we're going to push it as far as we can. And yeah, so I mean, hopefully that's what we can do at the family table, is kind of really sort of take people's kind of like dream ideas and sort of develop it into something that's special and means something extra to the people watching it, and something that your viewers might come back to time and time again because they really connect with the video or, you know, the story behind it. I think that's kind of, you know, like your favourite films that you watch over and over again. Like, that's the kind of content I'm really interested in making, is the stuff that sits in people's memories, and you're kind of like, oh, I'm gonna go back and and watch Run by Pyramid Park.
Absolutely, yeah, please do. I agree though, that's for me what excites me about the quality level. So we've talked a little bit about the kind of process as a director and the overall kind of view from your perspective, but I'd be interested as an artist, what are the challenges working with other artists? I get quite a few artists following me on here, and I know that there are tricky elements to working with musicians, artists, bands, etc. Can you tell me, I know I'm not the only artist you've worked with in the past, so what are the challenges for you as a director?
I'd say that everybody has their own flavour. Like, every creative has got your kind of like, and inevitably it's influenced by your influences and the things you're into, or what you've watched recently, or whatever your favourite films or favourite bands or something like that. And so therefore, as a film director especially, like, I guess for a lot of musicians, they're not filmmakers. Like, they don't necessarily sort of like do anything at all like that. They're making music, they're out there kind of playing gigs and that kind of thing, which is creative, but it's kind of the other side of creativity. It's like an audio kind of means of telling a story, whereas visual is totally different. And so working with artists is kind of that. It's not really a challenge, it's more of like I guess it's that kind of back and forth of kind of like, yeah, this is achievable or this isn't achievable on your budget kind of thing. Like, I know you might have seen Coldplay do it or whoever else, like, but like, we've got this much money and this location or these actors or whatever, and trying to sort of hone into I guess it's trying to sort of like, it's not trying to shrink people's visions for what they're trying to achieve, but it's trying to say like, well, what can we achieve really, really well on smaller budgets? And that's something that actually I guess a lot of your viewers are probably interested in, because like a lot of us, we're not working with massive multi-million pound budgets. We've got like maybe 300 or 400 quid to try and go out there and make something. And I think my advice would be to anybody who is looking to make films is to just have one really great idea and to follow that idea, instead of being like, oh, but then we could have like, pyrotechnics or like, and that kind of thing, or like, let's get a drone in and like fly a drone around and like, all of that nowadays. And it's like, yeah, that's if one of those ideas might be the idea, but altogether that's mental on a budget. So I think that's the biggest challenge, is kind of meeting in the middle of like, where's the real like story of what we're trying to show or tell or whatever in the film, rather than like, oh, I had this idea of like, this specific thing and we've got to do it like this and it's got to look like this or something like that. I think that's the hardest thing as a film director. Is to try and communicate, well, actually, like, let's keep it on this side of achievable rather than kind of the other side.
That totally makes sense, and I'm definitely that guy that's like, well, we could do this or we could do that. I did a stop motion video several years ago with a bunch of friends who were incredibly patient with me, and it took a year to basically finish because we had to set it up and put it down again. Incredibly painful as well, physically painful, lying on a floor for hours, moving just slightly. But we were constantly rearranging the story because we were just like, this is possible now or this is impossible now. And things like, how do we get Pete into a cardboard plane? It's just not going to happen. Let's think, how about a rocket instead? How about hanging off that? And I think that's the kind of thing that indie artists should actually embrace, as opposed to kind of think, oh, this is a bit disappointing or subpar. It's not at all. And I think it can actually make the project if you're willing to go with it.
Absolutely. I think some
we had
so some of the some of the stuff that you've brought out, like, that we haven't worked on, I think like, there's quality there because you're not trying to be clever or over the top or anything like that. There's charm to it because you're just doing you, like. And I think if, like, yeah, I mean, you can do you on a big budget and it might look maybe 10% better, but you could do you on like a small budget and it'll still look great, because I think nowadays audiences are looking for like that kind of authentic, like, who are you as an artist, rather than just like, oh, I wanted it to be this like super showy, shiny kind of product. Like, they actually want to watch a video that was like, yeah, I felt it, like I connected with it because I connected with you as the artist, and I'm not just like, I'm not being spoon fed like the video as if I, you know, needed it to be. Like, I want to watch it because it's special, or it has kind of something about it that nobody else has got about it, and inevitably that means it's about you as an artist. And I think that's, if anybody's watching and they're thinking, how can I make music videos even if you haven't got enough budget to employ someone like me, just think like, how do you just do you, like on a camera? Like, that's basically it, really.
That's so cool. I really appreciate you saying that, actually, because I think a lot of people feel the pressure to be the next best video, and it's forgotten about if you're not going to market it well.
Yeah.
I'd be interested. You know, we've worked on 2 music videos now, probably not the last. And Bright Heart was the first one, which, for those who don't know the video, it's basically the story of a hacker falling asleep at his desk, this hand coming out of the screen, and then he suddenly goes out on this mission to go somewhere, and every person he bumps into starts dancing, and he can't work out why, realizes it's something in his hands, goes back to the screen, realizes it's him, and boom, that's pretty much it as a story. Really fun shoot to do, 2 different locations. And then this one we've just done called Run was on location all the way through, 1-day shoot in Thetford Forest, and the weather turned on us quite dramatically, should we say. It was let's just say don't think I've ever been so wet in my life.
No, I don't think so.
With clothes on.
So.
And you were a trooper. I was saying to some friends recently, you know, the look on my face at the end of that shoot was not acting. No. It was simply the agony of being drenched for hours and freezing.
Yeah.
You know, as a director, what for you in those 2 videos were the similarities that you could maybe, you know, what good practices almost that worked for you working with me? I'd just be intrigued, and perhaps some things that would be useful for other people as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you're out there trying to make a film, and essentially I do this like on a day-to-day basis, where like I work with young people making films, and they say never work with children or animals, like, and actually I don't agree at all. Like, I think it's like, well, maybe you just weren't good enough to work with children or animals, or something like that, or you just weren't willing enough to work with children or animals. And really, it comes down, I think good filmmaking doesn't come down to expensive equipment nowadays, because realistically you can shoot quite good video on your phone. Like, so even if you've got a half decent phone nowadays, you can go out and make something fairly good. Like, yeah, it might not have all the bells and whistles, but it'll look reasonably good, and it'll be sharp and have all the nice colours and stuff like that. So realistically, it doesn't come down to equipment. It comes down to story, and it comes down to like how well you communicate that story, not to the audience, because that's not your first point of call. It's about communicating it first to the people who are going to act your story or tell your story on screen. So if that's you, obviously it might be a bit different, because you might be telling yourself how to act. But like when I've worked with you, Pete, like it wasn't too much of a difference between sort of saying, well, you're great at telling stories in song, so now convert that into telling your face how to tell the story, like, on screen. And I think I remember like the first maybe hour of the Bright Heart one was me just saying like, nah, give me more, like, because you were just kind of like holding back a little bit, and I was kind of like, nah, you can give it a bit more, like. And actually, I think everybody's an actor deep down, like, and especially when it's like you're essentially playing yourself on screen, but kind of like this sort of almost extra version of yourself on screen. Like, I think people get really nervous that they might be like, look too dramatic or over the top or something like that. And actually, I would say like go the other way. Like, you know, push yourself to do like the emotion and get the emotion on screen, because that's the bit that the audience is connecting with. Like, if you if you're watching a fairly kind of cheap made BBC drama but somebody cries, you're instantly connecting with the character, whether or not they're, you know, it's a really well made drama or kind of like a cheap kind of, you know, EastEnders kind of thing, like, you know. And so the emotion is like the heart of almost everything, I think, and especially when it comes to connecting with people on screen. Like, and so just dig deep into the emotion of what you're trying to communicate on screen, and I think you'll kind of I think you can't go wrong there, like, in my opinion.
That's so good. That's so good. Yeah, sorry, I felt like I cut you off just then.
No, that's good.
No, we're all good. That's good. We can keep that then. I mean, these are things that I just don't even think about, but I definitely feel awkward in front of the camera, and it's taken me years to feel confident doing vlogs. You know, I think vlogs have actually been so good for me, personally, just developing a side of me that I didn't realize was there. Now I do want to kind of change tack slightly and talk about you as an artist as well, because until recently you've kind of been working away behind the scenes on some stuff that I think that have the potential to be quite special. You are a musician as well. That's how we first connected, I believe, years ago.
Yeah, a long time ago.
And and I just think this is something that I have heard you talk about, this project that you're working on, but I'd love you to kind of introduce that to my channel and share what you're kind of thinking about this project, and as much as you feel comfortable sharing the context of it as well would be really great, because I think, again, for people who are artists watching this or a creative and they kind of have two strings, you know, they're a filmmaker but they're also an illustrator, or, you know, I think a lot of creatives often have more than one thing going on at the same time, and I definitely see that with you. So maybe you can tell us about your project you're working on.
So I guess kind of like rewind the clock a little bit and kind of go back to where it started. So as you mentioned, Pete, like we kind of connected when we were a lot younger. I live in Norwich and you were around here at the time, kind of doing your independent music thing, and at the time I was in a band with my brother and my best mate, and we were trying to do some similar stuff and play gigs and write songs and record EPs and things like that. Quite young at the time, actually, sort of like early teens. And we played in the band until I was probably like 20, I think, when we kind of sort of slowed down a bit, and then eventually kind of ended up thinking, maybe it's had its time and we'll put it to one side for now. But me and my brother Dan, so he's my twin brother, we're always into music, just creating stuff. That was kind of I guess it was the first thing that we did creatively before we both moved into like graphic design and artwork, and then going into film eventually as well, when we got ourselves sort of like hands on cameras and things like that when we were a bit older. But we just, like, I think that was just our language. Like, we just communicated in in creativity, and that kind of, I guess we kind of spurred each other on. It was kind of like, oh, try this or try that, or you could be better at that. Like, it was like, oh, I'm good at this, you should get better. Like, a little bit of brotherly kind of, teasing or whatever kind of thing was kind of our thing. And Dan was like this amazing musician, like much more technical than I am. Like, could play bass, could play keys, could sing, could play drums, like, you could do all the things that I wish I could do with, like, with my skill set. But I was always kind of like the songwriter. I'd bring the ideas and he'd flesh them out and have some cool sounds on a synthesizer or something like that. And so music was just a big deal, like, and continued to be even into our mid-20s. And unfortunately, sort of, we got sort of into our mid-20s, and then Dan was diagnosed with a brain tumour, and we thought it might have a chance of being cured. So he had a lot of chemo and radiotherapy and stuff like that, and it went away for a little while. Then it came back again, and then a little while after that he passed away. And it was, I mean, obviously, as you can imagine, quite difficult, very difficult. The hardest time of my life, something that, nobody should really have to go through, although, to be honest, like, we're all likely to go through something like that. And so, I mean, to say I got over it quickly would be a complete lie. Like, I tried to carry on, like, I tried to keep going, like, I'm a man of faith like you are, Pete, like, strong Christian background, like, so I know that he's gone somewhere great, but it's, the reality of the situation is that I'm still here, like, and life's still happening, and the good and the bad, and there's things that I think, like, he's had it easy because he's, he's gone there before I have, and then there's bits that I'm kind of like, he's missing out, like, this would be really cool if he was here, so it's two sides of the same coin, isn't it, when you've experienced grief. And I'm sure you've got similar experiences with your dad, Pete, and and all of the, I don't know, it's just like, it's a whole roller coaster of emotions of like, you can remember well, and you can be really pleased about all the memories, but you can also be sad all at the same time, and it's kind of like, it's so much stuff. And so I just started writing songs, and I didn't think I'd really do a lot with them. Like, actually, at one point, I just quit music. I think I got about a year in after he died, and I just kind of was just like, I was just done with music. I just kind of, I don't think I picked up a guitar for about 5 or 6 months, maybe, something like that, like, and and that's really weird for me because I love playing guitars, and so there was a lot of stuff going on in it, and I kind of came through that period, and then there's all this other stuff happening with the family table that was really cool at the time, and then I guess about a year ago, maybe partially because of the lockdown and and the virus and everything going on, and all of the, I guess, the grief and the loss that we were all experiencing through that as well, I started to think, like, maybe there's something here, like, maybe these songs mean more than me, maybe they're not just for me, like, maybe they're for everybody else as well, like, and I think it was about a year ago, I sat down in this room. I just bought this 1960s Japanese made catalogue guitar for 70 quid off a guy in King's Lynn, and it's kind of broken and rusty and really fun to play and makes weird noises, and I plugged it in the studio here, and I just started playing, came up with this riff, and out toppled these words, "Oh wide world," and it was one of those moments where you don't really know where that's come from, like, who's gifted me these words, like, what does it even mean? And it took me a little while to kind of write the rest, and as I did, I realised that it was a song not just about me. It wasn't just about me experiencing some grief and losing a brother, but it was about all of us, and how we can, I guess, all collectively get to a point in life where we kind of look around us and go like, oh my goodness, this is a massive world, and I still don't understand it, even though I've been here for this long, and I've done my GCSEs, I should know what's going on, like, it just, like, I guess that song for me kind of planted in me the idea that actually this whole kind of collection of songs wasn't just for me, like, it could be for everybody else. And that's where the album "Oh Wide World" was born, like, is in a few moments of kind of realising that actually maybe I needed to share this stuff and get it out there, and finally kind of get over my kind of fear of telling people about it or something like that. And and so fast forward sort of a year, and I'm at a point where I've written all the songs, or at least mostly, and I've got them all together, and I'm now trying to fundraise to make the album, and to make it really, really well, and to push the songs as far as they can kind of go sonically and lyrically and all of those things, and make it a really quality kind of album, and so I'm hoping to work with the same producer that you work with, Pete, Ian Hutchison, up in his studio in Glasgow, and yeah, I mean, I've never been to Scotland actually. I'm really excited about just going up to Scotland.
It'll be awesome.
And just having a really good time, just recording something, and hopefully it'll be the kind of album that people will really connect with, and that they'll be able to take the songs as their own, and you know, even if they've not experienced like a loss of a loved one or something like that, that hopefully these songs will be kind of just there for them when they need it. And that's my aim with the album, is to just connect with people and make great music and hope that it helps someone and gives them some hope.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I've heard some of the demos. I think it's going to be good, and Ian's obviously going to push you to that next level as well, so I know you'll have a great time with him. Can you just point us in the direction of where people can back your crowdfunders? When does it start? Do you have a date yet for that?
Yeah, so basically I've set up this kind of album website, so you can go to owideworld.com, and I'm sure your editor will put that across the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
And yeah, owideworld.com is kind of, I guess, the place to go to kind of really experience the album, is kind of how I'm seeing it. So I don't want this to just be like some music that we sort of like, oh, we recorded it and you can listen to it. I want you to be able to follow along with the journey, to be involved in the process of making it. So we're going to be posting up like little videos of what's happening. You'll be able to hear the demos on there. There'll be like acoustic videos. And then eventually, once the album's complete, I'm hopefully going to have some music videos, obviously, because that's kind of what I do.
Makes sense.
And make it into this kind of real kind of experience and story that you can kind of watch and experience online at that website. So go there, and for now, if you're in Norfolk, Norwich, or even if you want to travel, we're playing some gigs here in Norwich as fundraising gigs. And then hopefully we're going to be setting up a Kickstarter kind of crowdfunding campaign very soon, and there'll be all kinds of perks that you can get involved with, and yeah, I'd love your support.
Yeah, please do. If you feel like you want to get behind Ben and this amazing story, then please do, and I'm definitely going to get behind it in whatever way I can, really. So yeah, we're cheering you on. I'm really excited for you, and I think like that combination of the music, the songs, and obviously the film is going to be great, and I know you're going to nail it, so that's exciting.
Here's hoping.
Ben, thank you so much for being here today and being part of my channel. And this is the man behind the scenes shooting a couple of those music videos on my channel as well, so go watch them as well if you're interested to see Ben's approach and what he's done as a director. Thanks again, Ben, for being on here. And guys, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to my channel, like the video if you've enjoyed what we've been chatting about, and consider joining my YouTube membership, which is basically a way to get loads of exclusive stuff from me, Pyramid Park, that you wouldn't normally get on all my public socials. There's a whole lot of content that I share behind the scenes and talk about things a little bit more honestly than what I can share publicly. Not that I'm not honest, but you know what I mean. There's another level of vulnerability, and so if you're interested in that and getting a few perks as well, go check that out. There's a join button below. Thanks again for watching. See you guys soon.